Pantsula sisungula psychologically before maybe the dress code to the dance form, the music and all of that, how we think and how we do things out of that thinking.
Motho a ena le Pantsula o batla ugapi. Now ugapi ka e tlhaloganya as in terms of I've handled it. I've handled guns at a very young age because I had to hide them. Others I didn't even know their names. So motho tla adule le lona sneneng o mona nyametse. Because of political reasons.
I can vividly see the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck in 1652, like 8 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Baba vusa mazulu credo mutwa.
Exemense Fandidla, Owensedi Mataras, Mapiza na Mapiza Gaza Bomshoza. Welcome to Ikeleza Monday. And the Fandaha Sinosisom Tala, Osisek Tale Hamba Lendlela Le Creatives, Osis Phodiso Motsumi Matloga. Am I saying it right?
Yes, that's
Thank
me.
You, Mere.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
You know, Oswaka, I invited you on the Keleza Monday because Keleza Monday, it's about learning and teaching. As we slogan says, each one teach one.
Exactly.
I would like before I can motabing ya vandaag or just to introduce yourself so that people they know who you are, what do you do.
Yeah. Now I'm known as Paula locally. It's a nickname. I grew up with it. I don't know where it comes from, but it's quite chilled, and I'm very chilled as a person. I'd like to think. I grew up in Mhlakeng, Re goletse ko 2587A, Libusa Street. I'm saying A intentionally.
Yes,
because
of the way
the house, these houses were built. So it was meant to be a 4-room.
Okay.
So government of the time decided to put 2 households in one. So when they were moved from Madopolaville, Bontate Motsumi, my grandfather, they stayed there and they were placed there as a family with their kids. So as a 4-room, there's a door that leads from the kitchen and the other bedroom into the dining room and the other bedroom. So the A would be the dining room, the one facing outside, like to the gate, the dining room and the bedroom. So that was A. So it became a 2-room house, as they are known. I think there are very few. There's
also 2 rooms, Kamo.
But those ones, they own the yard, ne? And then we have Kotlasi, Libusa Khama, I think Moroka, where they had the 4s, but then gave 1 yard to 2 families for the A's and the B's. So we grew up there with, I'd like to think that it's a proper setup of a family in a sense, because we had a mother and a father, we had a grandma and a grandpa. It was quite limiting as in terms of the space, but it was such a warm space as a family. We enjoyed our space. And that is my grandfather, and my grandmother, because how our parents called them. So on that day, was a herbalist. And she was more of a mother at home, as far as my memory can help me recap. But Ndade was not just a herbalist. He also planted stuff. Like we had a fig tree, a big fig tree, Kopel. We had muriti wa di grapes. So because at the time, they didn't allow any other additional structures like this to be built in those yards. So the family would share the house, and then outside we had that shade, he had grapes, he had flowers, he had green hands. So so I grew up in that kind of structure where I see us having fruit from the tree, in a sense, really mulligation, where I see both parents being there with my siblings. I'm the youngest in my family, so I managed to have the comfort and the soothing moments with my parents. So I was more of Skaftin Samama, in a sense. I grew up very sickly as a person, so I never went to crash.
Straight to school.
From the hospital I went to school. So I think around 2.5, 3 years, I started being sick. They didn't know what's wrong with me. So I got sick to the level that they couldn't do anything about it because it reached a point where I would faint. But the thing is, what was wrong with me was tricky. It was not fever. It was not anything. So I would go to the bathroom and do number 2 or try to. Then I would have lilana. The way they used to say it. So and then I would bleed. So instead of having poop coming out, there would be something internally that goes out. And then, it took years because I remember my monkey hostel at some point because of dirata, and there was this old man, I forgot his name. He was a traditional healer in a sense. And he tried. I think that there was a day when it went out really good, and then they put me on a prima stuff with some herbs. I have a very vivid memory, but I remember some few things. And I think I ended up in hospital because they couldn't do anything. So I literally had my half upbringing of my foundation phase at home a little with my grandmother because and then I had half of my that phase in hospital because I was hospitalized for a very long time. So I went to Coronation Hospital. And I stayed there for a very long time. I came back actually speaking a bit of Afrikaans or understanding it more because it's in the colored community. It's a children's hospital, women and children. So it's very good for women who are to give birth, but also just general health of a baby from when they are born and until they are a bit older. They are still there. So when I came back, they tried getting me a school, but because I had an operation, no one wanted to deal with me because you give background of the child to say, hey, not hospital, So I go Majalala, and then I was half taken, and then at some point it was a rejection. The question in the township, I think Nele Majalala and the one year first stop. So that's how I started school. I went to school. I did my the one before standard 1, SAP-A. It's like grade R.
But that time.
It had a name at that time. I just forgot what it was called. So I started Kotswelelo during that phase. Then we went into, so we were in one class with the sub-A's.
Sub-A.
Yeah. So we would sit at the mat and then bona ba dula ko di-desking. Then we started rapasa raya ko di-desking. I did my primary school Kotswelelo. I went to
Ngwala
Moslady. I think even in sub-A, there was a lot of writing go slating until we got books. We started tracer with Mistress Mafojani. There's those books Sabana where Ogarwa driver with a pencil. So there's a mapped out thing. At the beginning and at the end, carrot. Then you
some
trace.
Kind of a direction and you trace up until
I remember that. I used to enjoy that a lot actually. And maybe even with alphabets, got the dots. Then we used to do that.
To get used to writing.
To writing, holding the pencil. And it was quite great, actually. So from Tswalelo, we went to Pahama. And then, then it was Joburg life. It started happening.
Yeah, Uswaka. Hey, man, Uswaka, quite a journey.
A very interesting journey, actually.
Very interesting
as I reflect.
And for me, having to ask you so that you can at least explain to us who you are. And then it's a matter of Pantsula family, because before Relima Pantsula we come from certain families. Before Relima Pantsula we come from certain cultures. Whether Motswana, Mxhosa, Ing. So the most famous question is Pantsula ke. And then according to you, as much as you grow up como Pantsuleng and always you portray that thing even on social media. Pantsula for life and stuff. So me, I take you like that because what I believe is Pantsula sisumula psychologically before maybe the dress code to the dance form, the music and all of that, how we think and how we do things out of that thinking. So I think you as a woman, as a female, as a mother, you all grew up in Kokasi and grew up under Pantsula and having to attend so many events at Pantsula. you have your own understanding and explanation gore Pantsula ke eng, so that other young mshozas or older mshozas can relate gore okay, from a woman perspective Pantsula ke eng.
For me, it's a lifestyle. And it combines what you just said when you say it starts in the mind on how you are groomed, because you don't just think things.
True.
That's why they say a child, when they are exposed to a certain thing, they will think that that's the way to go. And if that's the way to go, they would act it up elsewhere outside, where we can be defined as a family or as a community to say, hey, ke batho ba bantsho ba so, or whatsoever. So for me, it's a lifestyle. For me, why do I say it's a lifestyle is because I grew up in a space that it was purely about life more than anything. So it was never really defined as art. It was never really defined as school. It was the way we live.
True.
And I take it from my father, because now when I started working, part of the things that I bought my father, I don't know what they are called, those shoes, because I was really not into being into a Pantsula lifestyle to prove a point. It came as, that's why it's, for me, it was like, it's part of way of life.
True.
So it came natural. It's I accepted it, that this is the environment, and I knew the pros and cons of it. I learned how to navigate around it, and I made decisions around it as well.
Sure.
So those black and white shoes that Matema likes. So I
the two-tone, it's
two-tone,
a flosham and
yes,
stuff.
flosham,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So for me, when I bought my father that, it was like crowning him, because I feel like it started with him.
True.
If he didn't have the style, if he didn't understand quality, if he didn't model it to my only brother, because we were three. So the firstborn was my brother, the secondborn was my sister and me. So it was two girls with an older brother.
Sure.
So my brother was the one who introduced the Pantsula as a dance form.
Sharp.
But also as a school for consciousness.
True.
When I researched about him later in life, because he used art, which is Pantsula, and dance as a mobilization tool, as an educational tool.
True.
So for me, this whole thing, Yabo Pantsula, it started in a family where I saw my grandfather was a former military person. Okay. So as Lesole, I don't know where the wars are and all that. I don't have proper information on that.
Sure.
But Nelemotolotuhang Alola. My grandfather aksomona British shirt, unless it is Airile vest.
Okay.
He was the shirt man. Now when I grew up, my grandparents were already on pension. So I grew up with them as Batwabatona Badulanga Mohai. He would wake up, bath, wear his suit and tie Monday to
like
Monday.
Gentleman every day.
All the time.
Sharp.
Apare tops.
Sharp.
Original tops.
Yes.
Wear formal shoes. So I don't have, like for me, Pantsula botswako mo goreng o itlhokomela yang. He never really walked with a stick because he's sick. He had a walking stick that he would carry everywhere. Okay. Sometimes it was a weapon, I think. So na background ya rona, when I grew up, I knew it as Basotho. So I understood a lot of stuff based on that. Okay, Basotho ba tsamaya ka koto and all these things. But also the taking care of the family. We knew that they had la tshwantse dijo tsa hae be di le teng, that they o tlo etsa sure gore a botse gore everything is right mo ntlong. He had, and that's what my father was to me. Na papa hana bereka na ira sure gore we eat every day. True. I don't remember my mom buying groceries except for December, because then over good stock filling it comes in bulk. Sure. But the daily bread, the everyday meat in the evening, booby, it was my father's responsibility. Sure. So I understood it from that point. It's about taking care of a family structure. We were dressed at some point I really didn't care about what I wear personally, but for me I knew the weekend we must look fine.
Again, le gona le diaparo tsa mogarabeke le tsa weekend tsa go tshameka and all of that tsa go chaka. Yeah, we didn't just wear diaparo because of no belwa tsone gore a tswa skela ke itse diaparo tse tlo di aparang Vandag.
Exactly.
Sharp.
Even with school. So they made sure o na le tlhako tsa school.
Yeah.
O na le hempe ya school.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to Palma, I was doing standard 7.
Sharp.
And I was new at the school. So I get go na le go apolelana.
Yes,
Handovers
Yeah.
of clothes. So they hand me down it's a school. In my siblings. And the way they were Pantsulas, both of them.
Sharp.
They would make sure that they iron their clothes. So there was a shirt in that one teacher was like, "Hey, wa iron Motsumi." Oh, I know because the way it was worn out.
Yeah.
I iron one thing every day. Exactly.
Every day on because ne gona le this thing in press lap.
Yes.
When you iron lesela le kenya mo metsing and then or sometimes ba re wa le naspata or it's something like that and then
because it was not steam iron. So wale naspata go steamer. Exactly.
So how creative were we as black people?
So we managed to go through those things, and those are the teachings.
True.
In a sense. So for me, when I say it's a lifestyle or it became a way of life for us, and I didn't have to crack my head or prove a point. No, I've always taken it in that sense.
True.
So I learned a lot. I learned a lot with that kind of lifestyle because, like, I struggled to wear fake clothes. Even if, like, I've always had that problem.
Sharp.
I went to a level where I did research about fake clothes at some point to say, how do you identify? Because if you live in Joburg, anything is possible.
True.
So, and it was because of Pantsula. Because anything that is done, you rather sacrifice and get the original thing that will last you for the coming 20 years than having to model as if, because for me, fake clothes is like wearing a mask. You know, you are pretending to be that person who can afford that. But
deep down,
why not go to Pep Store and get that pair until you are able to afford yourself? You know, so for me, it's a financial thing. For me, it's a structure for a family. For me, it's sharing because because we are not allowed to cook during the day. One, list of some so you can only live in the afternoon. So we were not allowed to during
the day and stuff. Yeah.
And then that means we would have proper meal in the evening with the whole family, which I really appreciated so much. And I have my tea with me. And not really, you know, the way as siblings say we were never into that. Maybe my brother and my sister, they would be in that because one and this and that. That's why RFD kind of vibes. So for us, it was having that loaf every day. And that loaf was not for us. And probably half. But the rest of the bread would be shared with other kids. Either batla TV or batla le rona or but at the time. Or batlile because problem me one sepolitiki two Pantsula. And that's what we would share. So it's about sharing. When we have something body hand me down. I didn't have a problem. I hand me down from another grain who used to work go the kitchening. Okay. So I understood it. It's not a big deal. So even if I get it from my siblings, or if I have to hand it down to somebody else, it was never my problem. So we grew up in that space where also, so the hand me down where I'm raising and it's part of the sharing is because. I would give a boy a pair of shoes that I bought thinking that is for girls, but and then I realized that actually it's a unisex. I couldn't really understand the concept, but for me, I would even say, like,
because
let's go.
If you remember, there was this thing, if you are girls, you'll share the apparel. If you are boys, it's the same thing. And then, as you say, like there was a time whereby if it's a come out to call foot, there was nothing wrong. And then our school bag, we privileged according because we used to carry a plastic, carry bag, sometimes you take your bag, you use you know. So it was that thing of unity as black people and how do we share because of the situations apartheid and stuff.
Nare golela ko 2587, people can't even tell the difference between the two families even today. I correct because I feel it's necessary for my own personal reasons, but it was like that. Like I have kids, like I remember one time, so banana ba go kitchen ba go kamre. One day papa atla because na ana le go itsamela ikele go ditšhomi tsa he a wa kra go adilwe. And he couldn't pass to the bedroom because normally ha ile gona fela, then there's a pathway to the bedroom. And then he can get access to the table where he can eat and all that. And he was like, yo. When I left, so multiply so because I don't know how many we were. Probably we were more than 10. But we were that family. Or all of the blue normal
to TV.
Exactly.
Remember maybe in one street there were 2 TVs, and you'll go to a certain house and only TV which is black and white.
We started there.
Way back before the color TV and stuff, and they will pay 10 cents for a certain story. And then we find out sometimes and then when we make noise, they close the curtain. Why wanna that? So the 10 cents I wanna DJ.
Yeah, and you know what is interesting with my home is that everything was for free, and kids were allowed to come in because I know that there was another family that had privileges even more than us because the parents were the father was a male nurse and the mother was also a nurse.
Okay,
but because I don't know if it's levels. But no one is super clean in that house. So even access it was an issue. I know my home as that home with kids.
True.
Like different age groups. So for me, that's what familyhood was about. And that's how I understand sharing and caring. It comes so easy. When my kids started the theme, sharing is caring. For me, it came easy because I've lived that and I understand it as a normal.
It was not preached.
No.
It was a reality.
It was not forced.
It was not forced. It was not forced. It was like
it was part of life.
Part of life.
Next door and all these things. But my family house, 2587A, it was never closed. So it was that home. We've stayed with people that I don't even remember their names. Others, I didn't even know their names. So motutla atla adulele lona sneneng umwana nyametse. Because of political reasons. So hatla motla ka false name. So okay, brother Sam, and because you can't question beyond. And also I was the youngest, like gap between my siblings and I is huge. My brother Namfita got 10 years, my sister got 7 years. So you can't question some of the decisions. I don't know how my parents allowed that, but also because they were working parents, they were never really present in the house during the day. So whoever was there, it was up to my siblings to have control over what is happening responsibly so that definitely one out thing which is me so if you are expected to and all that, any other thing as long as it didn't involve or crime, it was like that's how I think they accepted that because they were those people that had the heart to allow us to share that bread, allow us to share everything we have, whether it's diaparo or marobalo or whatsoever. Obviously, a lot happens when young people meet, but there was some sense of control in anything. I'm saying so because also there was. I want to talk about security and safety for me. As the youngest, as a girl within Pantsula. Amangata, junior and senior, youth can think otherwise. Become ready. I always felt safe, and they ensure that I'm safe. And I was always asked if I'm safe, which I feel it's one of the privileges that I've had. It's safe, and I was safe even beyond home. At times, it really irritated me because I felt that people don't want to relate to me because they think maybe they are threatened. But I feel it's because of the security I had. But it's all, if I say Napola, some people say, who? But if Napola
and then start to...
then there's a change in how people view me.
True.
Even safety-wise, which I feel as I grew up, I observed that and I appreciate it more as at my age. Actually, you know, I was safe because there were so many strangers, there were so many people, faces, male, female, youth that came in and out, even Batwawa Holo at some point, because my brother had a matured thinking. So Naski Mama Hotman. So, but I was always safe. Like, that is one privilege that I really, really appreciate of that communal house.
True. So another thing, speaking about your brother, Ramatsan, as a group leader at For Danger, Sharp, I hear many stories about who started Red for Danger, this and that. But what I know, I think my potential, assumably untrust, as you speak about safety and stuff, untrust, it's on the first day when I came, I joined a group which was Bionic, a junior group, Red for Danger. And then Bionic, it's a class story. No, we sumuluti libonganis man. You remember the late. And then Horebongane at the Nanale comrade, Usumulito Pantsula.
Exactly.
So there was this thing of, there was interlink between Pantsula le politique. So it's not like a politique in Cabo Pantsula or Pantsula and politique, whichever way. And there was a way whereby they went to some campaigns in Carltonville and stuff, and then they will take attire when they meet the police in a roadblock. They will say, no, we are going to a dance competition, and they will say, okay, show us. And they will demonstrate. So you find out on that period and that situation, okay, these guys get this group, but at the same time, as a disguise for their political reasons. And now it happens Ramasane sometime, I don't know why, at maybe late twin or chest or man, all the time, or and say, Aremfit Arvai. Kevale ko milita media. And then I didn't say this thing. I don't know. Ogarna build something. Not next year, I realized because I was interested. Come Jaivo, and then he will go with me. Go Kotso house. It started. Then we go to Kotso house. We are in a meeting, and then give us a book and say, "Mwala so nakana kore is important to go meeting." So we'll write there, and then on Monday, because we had meetings every Monday, and then in the meeting started For Danger. We'll have a meeting a group and then another meeting wa go reporta gore kwane go tsagalang political. And then go meeting in one group, we are English by the way. We have to talk like share a meeting in English, and there was that discipline. You don't just talk. You raise your hand, given a chance, noted or whatever, and then we talk. So Heinz we end up ascendan na kiliwan. Gore mfethu ya meeting. So ga tšhelta go palama ke o nne le notebook o yeda o tla jala. And then why is it translating again? Every time I have to come back and report. Every time I have to come back and report. Without realizing, I'm in a training process, making enquêtes aware politics and so forth. So I don't know how in a later stage whereby Anna Gwenseya is actually group leader, Elena group leader later on after Botebe, Libosai and stuff. And then I pushed that. And then I found out or Esan. I start to understand Pantsula, not just fella come Jaivo and stuff. I start to see things differently and see life differently and start to understand politically, social, and economically what is happening around me, whereby Nafakiti this art form, which I didn't know it's an art form. Jaivo. And then later on I realized Esa, training process. Krotman and some other things. And that strengthens how I think about Dilo, how I see how I can sustain consistency up until today. Pantsula, it entails this and this and this. Is not just Mjaivo. And there was a time Ramasan was writing a book about Pantsula. And then that finally, because of many other groups after his passing, group leaders, they were fighting for that, But then again, because I read it, and then I understood some of the things, and then later on, I felt like But I continued, and then it made me hungry to want to understand gore sentle man Pantsula ke eng, where is it going, where does it come from, and all of that, and how he wrote it. I can quietly remember gore it was so political. You understand? And then now later on, it cost me gore no, I have to read books, I have to research. For me to have the love for books. It's because of Ramatsani and it's because of Sai, because I used to stay with Sai. We talk about so many things and then we'll read and we'll share books and stuff. So I got an inspiration, maybe quite an influence from Ramatsani to Prince, to Sai and all of those group leaders or Makrotman and Loribankhudisitse. And then I saw Anita, or you know what, when I check my Pantsula Baya, Haritsebi, I want to explain this thing. Each and every encouraging sector of life, whether it's politics, whether it's theater, whether it's soccer and what, these guys, they know their history. And somebody will archive, like document and stuff. And who is going to document this? Who is going to preserve this? Who is going to talk about this? So that each and every time somebody must say something. So that when somebody asks you, what is this Pantsula? What is this? You can able to explain, you know? So we pushed up until Rekala Impilo Pantsula in 2012. And then that's when because of, I think we were hungry for the same things, but in different ways. And then Impilo Pantsula, as a movement, started to, how can we help each other? How can we create opportunities for other Pantsula groups and other creatives that relate to Pantsula? So it's a privilege that I had, like I check, from Makrotman and Kodisitseng to Ake Kopanilone to Impilo Pantsula. Whereby we started now, many people, because they started to see YouTube, the videos, explain this thing and stuff, and started to be hungry. What is this? How can I explain this? And we just see the fruits, they develop a bit by bit. If you remember, we didn't have the YouTube, we didn't have the social media, we didn't have the podcast, and we can see growth from, let's say, 20 years back to now. And today we are here talking about Pantsula, having a podcast, which is beautiful. And if you remember, Bramoleko, who was staying like
front opposite,
the photographer. I think he bought a video camera. The first time I saw myself on TV, not even SABC something, but just VHS. He shot us. And if you are Hopola, we went to Great Hall, a very shooter, passaging, and then even inside. And I was so happy to see myself on TV. But it made me hungry again. Norman, God is not enough. I want to see some other things. Up until Motaho. So now I was very grateful. I didn't know why Pantsula or this art form. My mother used to unsqueal. You know, it's family matter. Akiri anong how's I can school? So mo bereka. Are gonna Zambia we to opetse ga ithu ga itira rekela mama gentlu. Wena ke lengo jiva wa samba ilentlu. So I didn't understand it, but because of there was this thing Elori in keeper going for I love dancing. I have to do this. And I was curious, how can I make this thing maybe a career or something? Or how can I teach you and all of that? Sharp, my mother passed away in 2002. The fruits now is no longer there, but I thank her for what I'm pushing somewhere, somehow. And then Lena, I wanted to prove for her, you know what, Magreza, this thing, yaspan. Because she didn't understand by then, but she saw a potential. Because when I rata trompis, when I lay this video trompis, checking. That video, but I have a thing. Blind that trompis. So that showed me, okay, within the family, Magreza can relate too. Because Magreza can help shows our me time. Me time alone, they chapela the 3-piece, una chapa 2-tone, chapa dopsy, as you explain about the grandfather and stuff. So you can see Pantsula Butswaka. I didn't just grab it and stuff. Come on, next door, I used to sit here, so I felt spana, Kidula, Kamovama Pantsula, the younger ones, Kais or Samaba jazz, because more than Pia and stuff. So it was one of those things up until Kibona Norman. This thing can work. And then as I grew up, I think around my early 30s, I became worried because Machitaka Paya Avaya, but Spana, Babang and stuff, because Babona Esan, Tamilerete, the NZD meet, and So now I always believe and I always encourage my jita, no, this thing, ikaspana, so maybe we can only income and then we maintain and so. But now my thing was, if because I'm a group leader, yeah, sure group. And then the legacy, Yabo Ramatsani, Bo Babi, Bo Prince Bomang, is dying. And I think Karikena in one time buyer than Majita Ama. So I said, I have to make this thing work. And I know once it can work, maybe I will groom somebody, Lori, Otana, success, Ayaka, and stuff. Wabo. Unluckily, not everyone can be brave to push this thing. Wabo. But at least so far, there are some younger guys by Lori, Kikonobona potential, or okay, this one can become my successor later on. So, is that thing, Red for Danger as a group influences many groups, even outside of Moshaking. How it choreographed into Ion, how it was disciplined, how it was carried on because of Mahrotmane Ali and those who came after that. So it's one of those things when you check in your family. Red for Danger, it was not just a dance group, but it was kind of a second family to us. Because when we came to Kolibusa, Magreza mama, we call him like that, ma. You know, and you know, each and every kid, if we discipline from Kobon, each and every mother, each and every father, or wako next door, wako kai, papa, you know. And you'll find that even if a sister or it's saying, you know, horeke uswak. As you said, you find out somebody can think that we are relating. Only find out, no, we are neighbors. And how we were groomed, it became ya progressa, ya fitlela ko di groups. Because ko group only discipline wa ka gore ka skatla late. We have to rehearse, we have to be clean all the time, you have to listen, there must be a meeting and all of those things. And you find out ko di group there was no money, but retsa nkoma dladleng ha ba go paela mtlomo dikis. Wa itse dikis ya ko sekolong ke dikis o tlo use gape ko group. So you'll say instead of lempaele a navy, ko pa lempaele a gray. Knowing when so it will use a group up until maybe group in knowledge and then it can riding. So it was one of those things, you experience these things and learning from a Grotman and how you grow as an individual, even though to be happy, this thing, but then because you want this thing to work. At least something say via at the end of the day when you become happy. Way before tabahore so now it's a bigger concern also a lack of female Pantsula. As much as you know, for men to exist is because of women. Haritzalwa or ngwana al hari papa yo, hari mama yo, which says mother is a pillar of everything. When I'll check Uswaka, what is it shortan for more females, even if it cannot be a par to men, and what is it like what's Pantsula says shortan for more females?
I think maybe it's the way we see it first of all.
Okay.
I feel that they are there. It's just that maybe they are not necessarily dancing or even participating constructively in the movement.
Sure.
And also it was never really a formalized movement because it has always been about dance, dance competitions, we challenge each other and all these things. I think there was a point when personally I saw the rise of Bomshoza as in terms of dance now.
Sure.
And I think I saw it through you guys, Botapelo, and there was a group that you were grooming and all that.
Sure.
And I was very happy for that, though I was worried about it because most thought that I grew up tomboy and I never thought about it. It's just that it was, and also not really tomboy or like I want to be a boy, but it was influence of clothes, my choice of clothes. So I would have items that maybe are meant for boys, and obviously and the things that Pantsula, like items are very expensive, so you get them once in a while. So I would make sure I get all star, and obviously quality I would wear it longer. But also by me wearing it, people would say, hey, lerata bushimane. It was about shorts. It's about the overalls of Samson. So the hand-me-down thing, passing of clothes from. I had overall ya butaka, and I used to wear it in a very fashionable way. So for me, I feel the dress code sometimes burdens them as females.
True.
Because they feel like there are those that maybe it's lack of grooming as well, because we never really had a school for Mshoza or a movement or a platform of conversation with them. I remember when my sister na Mshoza ki missing wa para di kwai o jaiva ka hili o saka na para kota hili ka skete sa taxi ka hempe na jaiva le speed cop temp come next door ile ebony ile two-hander. And those two people, the way they were kind of equal in leadership, I understood it in that sense. And that's what also sometimes is misinterpreted as in terms of domination, because I think some others, they feel too dominated or they want to dominate even more. And that's my view of Bomshoza. Because Bomshoza babang haina mutho haina le pantsolo batla ugabi. Na ugabi ka itlhaloganya as in terms of I've handled it. I've handled guns at a very young age because I had to hide them for my brother at times, because this thing of politics had a thin line of military and just normal life. And sometimes you can think of it beyond. That's why mutho ha una le pantsula. Part of it.
Because there's that contradiction.
There's a thin line. There's a very thin line.
Sharp.
And also it's that thing Americans suffer from. Once only hoodie and you walk thing,
they see a gangster,
and then they see listen to the scout and all that. No matter what age, even if you're 8-year-old, and they're like, so it was about that, and there was misinterpretation even with guys. There's a lot of pantsulas that ended up in prison for other things. They have nothing to do with pantsula, but we were generalized in that sense. So sometimes to that extent, or prove a point to that extent. And I still feel lack of grooming as well. To say sometimes it doesn't come as natural, but family where understand with my family, with your family, where you've seen it. Exactly. And it was like on that note of fashion and
Style,
decency and levels,
True.
you know. So but have I boni in that sense. So now shows up like I can understand that from a skate perspective, and not from trying to be a man as a female.
True.
It's on those bases, because they would still retain their
bomme. True.
And it's not like babang ne basa tlhaloganya o kapi, because also ke issue ya protection. And it's one of the things that I suffered from when my brother died. I felt like, because we were still Kolivusa, and his things didn't really go too well in politics. And yamoja moya, yamo feza in a sense emotionally. So he ended up looking like in a sense for other people. As I understand, he was very sharp. If you sit with him, he did passing off the baton with everybody. I think some of the leaders today, they know that passing off the baton, and he was not saying, I'm grooming you. No, he would tell you things. He would challenge you in a very simple way. To say, why? Now, he said to me one time, Connected, which was a networking organization for,
I remember the one
for
in
theater.
Newtown,
Yes.
Sharp.
And he said to me, what also you go, forum here, MTN, go, what, you know, these big convention centers. Why are you not part of that? But you work in an organization that speaks networking. And it still broke something in me, the way networking ka thing. Because for me it was like, hey, Rapanda is multi theater and all that at a level of community theater, and we're trying to make this thing work. But he never limited his potential to where people see it. So how was so Nasaiboni, that thing. He was one person who had thinking of wealth sitting at home. So when I was in hospital, for example, I was very young, but he used to visit me.
Sure.
And the journey between Johannesburg and that station, which is, home, Randfontein, and almost in Johannesburg, he ended up selling stuff, go training.
Sure.
Because what he picks, he pushes, and whether it's right or wrong. And when it's wrong, he will leave it. If it's right, he will continue doing it.
Sure.
And it was a challenge because also batho ba ne ba tshwara mo training ha o rekisa. But he had bought a linti patla so.
The one ba hangkan
Oh yeah, he had that. Yeah, the smoke. He was a smoker.
Sure.
I don't know what that is, but he was that guy at a very young age. I think he was still Kopahama or something, and so. And it was an opportunity that he saw. Instead of sitting, so he would go selling and then see me and come back.
Because there was a time I read a cassette, A1, like mix master or a black box or a, and then there was this box here. I think it was the cassette A10, yeah, TDK, and then retro tapa there, which is copyright in twin. Retro tapa the cassettes, and then we sell these cassettes.
He was very business minded.
So it got me into that kind of a business. Guys or panic. We buy like cassettes A2, it's different, and then buy those 2 boxes. And then so I can relate.
And it was from the understanding of also whatever he had, he would put paraffin and then let it burn and everybody flames.
Yeah.
And he was a perfectionist as well. That's what the way waka thing. Training, it was intense. That's what intimidated me actually. That's why I never really attempted dancing, Pantsula specifically. I went into traditional dancing and a bit of contempt at some point. But it was because of the discipline.
True.
The way things would be repeated over and over again. Yes, there were no mshozas, and I'm saying now going back to the issue of mshoz, to say that's how my sister started, because also it was based on protection. Even in politics, it was the same. I remember my sister wanted to explore politics, and he saw that the people who were introducing this concept to her were not reliable people, but he knew. Now I was never my engagement in politics is very funny, and it was never formal. Like I don't have to align myself to a certain party to prove a point, but I know that the agenda that I run with is which one, because that's where the fountain is, where we're talking the Freedom Charter, and you can't talk about Freedom Charter without talking about ANC. So that's my well, and wherever I am. And whatever I do it in the name of.
True.
So I'm a protector. Now I'm a protector because there's also exposure of harassment. People that get raped in these kind of groupings where it's male dominated most of the time. People are taking advantage of in those kind of setups. And I think also those are the kind of things that maybe at some point makes people not to be involved and not want to pursue. And obviously we can't run away from it, because even in the arts in general, matras audition where people are just being casted because of favors, or even placement into certain jobs.
The carpet
exactly. And it's
that.
one of the things that also a performer. I remember there was a year just after Phodiso go high school, where I got an opportunity to be an extra. And I looked at how people looked at me.
You can see
window shopping and survival of the fittest, who can get there first and all that. And I went back into my shell. I was like, I can't do this. If TV means this, then it's something else, because now my exposure to TV was with RFD when they were still doing what was that show now? And me going there, it was a big deal. First of all, I was, I think, a bit underage for that. So I dressed up to go there to look a bit older. I went with my Pantsula. We sat there. I love the environment because it's a studio. It's a new environment. There's like, you can't talk. You can't just stand up. You can't just do this kind of vibes. And I like that environment. But when I realized that there's things beyond, I got more curious, but it also intimidated me because I didn't know how am I going to protect myself in all those things. So I think also there's that thing. It comes natural, you know, when you're in danger. I went back into my shell. It intimidated me because also Moran Fantino Oya ko SABC ko Glen Park. And I felt like I can't deal with that.
Because you have to do that thing often. And
so I just left my agency and I felt I can't do this. So it's the same thing, I think. When you feel threatened, you go back. Bomb shows are a thing. It's just that maybe Harry declare, you know, maybe Harry dance. And definitely for me, it's a matter of having kind of MID, moving into dance kind of vibes where a school is there. And I'm very happy with the movement Yampilo, because I see, like for the first time, Luna, you are not scared. And that's why human beings comes in different forms. And every time a child is born, comes as a better model. Because there's some sense of bravery, there's some sense of wisdom that comes with the child. So when we talk about when you were junior and working with the seniors at RFD, there's a baton that was passed to you.
True.
And you found a way, because also evolutionary life. I mean, today we are on social media, there's this and that, technology advances, and you are taking advantage of that. And Lebanon, they took advantage of what was available then. We had yachts, we had access to the halls in the name of the arts. And there was still school, but we couldn't formalize it because there were segregation rules at the time that targeted very young black men. I don't know how many times I've dealt with police at the age of these girls that were standing outside, where they come in at times with dogs, like huge white men. And they're asking questions in Afrikaans and they are intimidating you and they're getting into your house. Even because they want what they want. And for me, that's how I understood simple things of how do I give as well into the movement? That's why for me, I don't have to prove any point. I don't have to wear any color. I will do what I can do. And it's at the equal, because now when I had the privilege of working in a political office, I was never a card carry member. When I was there, I was forced to. That card never arrived. I paid for it. I've never went to a formal meeting. In a space like this where and a movement to move to Bokobo Denisi, and then you are sent so a yellow class we battle we can plastic across the strata we use. That's that nobody owes me anything for that, and I take it as my participation in the movement. So and I'm grateful for I lived with somebody who had the idea of using art as a tool to facilitate the change in our community. Art as a tool, as an educational tool. What you are saying, feedback. Now that's how I was introduced. The arts into deal admin. And I didn't even know what it's admin. Until today, I eat out of arts admin. My kids are clothed in the name of the arts. Art saved my life in many ways. Go 2587. It was art that I was exposed to. My thinking out of the box, it's art that saved me in a sense, because I could have been just an ordinary girl from a township. And I appreciate so much to be aligned to my township. I always say, people don't really, and actually it's not even my say, because there's nothing new under the sun. But and also it won't be acknowledged or a prophet in its own space. And
very true.
And I found that through the arts and politics, I saw my brother learning how to swim, how to eat with fork and knife, how to sleep in a lodge and come back. I've taken flights over. I've never paid for my overseas trips. It's art that paid for that. There's participation with international, even dignitaries. I've sat with a mayor in Sweden or Fagesta, and I spoke art at a very young age, before 35. And we were talking how to change the environment and how does art influence our environment, how youth can, and I understand it because I've lived that. Without the arts, I wouldn't be groomed in any which way, professionally, discipline wise, because you carry that, you learn about it, and you go. Even people that maybe fell off the wagon, they know what they learned. Lebo stabone ba teng if go te mang no ke wrongful blah 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 bo stabone bo, it's just that it's not aligned to the proper things. But that person who come to a certain extent, when you stick to something, you stick to it. It's just that sometimes you decide to stick to a wrong thing. But
you are disciplined in that.
The grooming happened. Well, the grooming happened. That's why you find that in the history of RFD, you find I've lived le Pantsula ba ne ba sena nix mara ba tlhalefile and botlhale ba wisdom from God. I've lived le Pantsula are in today, they are businessmen who are managing, like we were talking about the guy was saloon. That guy, he knows the economy. It's in the township. The small money that comes in and out. He lived for many years through that business. There are academics. My sister was one of those academics. Bo Wilson. Exactly. Sharp. So there's people that when we say ke bona motho apere gown ya graduation, ilele Pantsula inside that, you know. So it and also with Pantsula, you model with doing, whether it's right or wrong. So for me, it's as simple as that, as understanding leadership, passing of the baton, creating legacies. Excellence, because nafa bo Pantsula I've already into dancing Pantsula. It was never about excellence. But because it's not fashion of dress up, because there's also fashion of dress up, like international standards of dressing up. But people it's a hype. They never reach the point of excellence.
And they never sustained, I guess, or continue doing whatever that was supposed to be done, creatively so and otherwise.
Exactly.
Because it was a wrong attitude that they portrayed, and hence why there's a contradiction between Pantsula, as we are saying, there's a thin line.
Exactly. That's why overgrab bang nere haba jelwe for the competition in na issue ya tipa. But it was never really about that.
Fight the other
exactly.
Group.
And also because of the environment and how the townships were structured. There is a lot of influence that really damage the reputation ya bo Pantsula. Hence bona bomshoza decides gore batla ikirela bomshoza ba bona privately somewhere else and not get involved. There's a lot of influences in terms of botsotsi, botagwa, dishonesty, whether it's for them personally or for other people. Because also this fire, when it came the way it came. And it depends on what you're gonna do. So it's like when the Holy Spirit comes in the space and all of us are sitting in here, how you gonna handle it and understand and interpret and enable that spirit to come in you and let that spirit lead you to do the good. Understanding how the Bible says the city did latlhelo mo mmung. And those that are fruitful are the ones that will pass that baton or handle that baton, because
the interface, school interface, the athlete,
how can you mole mo cycling that marathon I hold this baton, I run, I give it to you, run, you give it to somebody else. And there's also what you are indicating, the handover between the two parties. The handover can be haiko over. o ka emesa or nka o fa ka mogomong le nna ka ira o emese ha ke tlogela really to re ka tla re emese but ile a great thing
Sure.
re fitlhile re di number 1
Sure.
be re palwa ke yone be wela mofatshe.
You have to turn back, we sell, and I always sell the other one. Wafeta.
But also it's persistence.
Sure.
It's pursuing. Where house at the tshwere o boetse morago ba le fitile o e fang o mong o latelang le ena speed sa hae and all that until I fe o mong until re tlo fetsa go rotla, and then these people made it. For me it's a very great educational tool.
True.
Or example. Yeah, how do we pass that baton? And it to what you were saying, to say he would take us and then lemang, but in moving that received that seat.
Sure.
Who managed to hold that baton? When it fell, was that person discouraged or went back to pick it up?
Encouraged and then
you know, and said, I'll still run with it. You can still get tired and walk with it and made it to the end, to the finish line.
To the finish line, sure.
And also because it's not about who made it first in life. Because when you are given the course, and those are the things that satisfy me when I think about my brother's life. To say, for his course of life, he did all he could.
Sharp.
And as a human, you get discouraged, you get beaten up by systems.
True.
As far as I remember, I don't remember Renali Kesia rape court of my brother. He was a super charmer.
Sharp.
People liked him. He had this thing. And it happens when you are ordained with leadership.
Sharp.
And when you are a wise man and when you are a talent. So you can imagine if all these things, graduation for you. So he had these things packed on him. And there was no way that you won't like him.
Sharp.
He doesn't actually have metric, I think. I think he failed, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
But he was never the one that had to go masters. But at the age of 15, 16, 18, 20, that guy spoke like a person olaling masters.
Because I remember he was a chairperson ya Kosas, ne?
Yeah.
I don't know, is it in Gauteng or in West Rand?
It went to the levels. I mean, he was Chomiabo Lebogang Maile. He, not even Chomi, comrade, I would say. And it led to brotherhood to a certain extent. Other people deny him today. They decide not to want to align to his name. And I don't mind, because I feel like the purpose of meeting them happened. Whether they want to acknowledge it or not.
Sure.
And blessed are those actually who acknowledges it. Now I sipped from his well.
Sure.
I lived under his protection. We've never said in court, housebreaking.
Sure.
Even in his criminal thoughts, it was still very politically orientated.
Sure.
I know that I was exposed to the knowledge that he did white collar crime.
Sure.
And it was out of being desperate, trying to level up with people that he groomed, and now they are on a gravy train, for example, and trying to get to those levels. He was a very hardworking person. I remember he worked in a company called Western area. And I think things that he had very soft hands. And he used to say,
Yeah, I always say that.
Yeah, and books.
Yeah.
Because he was that person.
True. Yeah.
He never really believed in hard work, like hard labor. Hard work, yes, not labor. So anything he does, it was structured in a way that he simplified. He was a smart person. He worked with smart principles.
Because as we spoke about military Lokuzan earlier, I remember one time, I don't know which year, but I think around 95, 96, I don't remember quite. We went to perform in Pretoria in a camp, Yamasole. And there were generals. You see these guys got his stats sitting at Tanga to Satalokanya. Hey, Marakonabona Arbaki Matona. And by then we are young. I think we are around 15, 16. Rekense di empeza skolo. Adi tegehi nibi lansere jaiva diatwa. You know, but because Nerato jaiva, and these guys are sitting here. I think it was a military museum in a sense. because I remember there were some sculptures in Marikita, Zamasole and stuff. And fast forward to now, as we are talking, I'm thinking, that guy had a way of talking things through and finding a way anywhere retro spanner, retro performer. And it doesn't matter whether it's a political thing, whether it's a social thing, whether, and when you think, why put out that guy on yang? And the very same mentality, you can see it in different group leaders of those times, ka area or age group or Pantsula, the way they think, as I said, it started it's a psychological matter before anything. They see opportunity in everything, and how they use that maybe intellect to open up other opportunities. It's something say back in the days, there were no social media where you can charm people by likes and views and stuff. But and people, they don't know you, but they will know you after having to present in a certain space.
Direct engagements.
So you find now, we have grown from where we were to now, but there are still struggles. And as we're talking about them shows us and stuff, we find out it's a different thing. Currently, how to interpret Mshoza and interpret maybe Pantsula. As much as generally more life, each and every sector of life, there's a male domination. For example, now, there are more males than, and it's like, spaces and you find out women, according to my understanding, women were born with power. It's only that the system that was created, basadi they are vulnerable and basadi they have to fight for their space, and only to find out we just to forget by the way we exist because of them. And now there are less Mshozas, as we said, we can see through and bomb shows about less. Only find out no, there are mom shows us. It's that maybe now we expect him shows us to dance, and then only find out no, they are not supposed to dance. Maybe they're doing other things. Maybe Mshozas are administrating. Maybe Mshozas are conceptualizing. Maybe Mshozas are writing scripts. Maybe Mshozas are directors, and all of those things still currently are so realized. But as the movement grows, Pantsula, we'll start to realize certain things of saying, no, Bom shows about them, but doing a different activity without us having to expect or know. How long shows that to jive? Because of now, as we're talking earlier, a lady or a mshoza who aparaskete kadikwai and what to represent that woman thing, to have that dignity and stuff. Now Bom shoza babalin thing, they believe they must wear a trouser, a dickies, tomboyish like and stuff, which is not wrong because of it's a different generations. That's how they know Bom shoza. That's what they were exposed to. No, shoza. Tamilo shape dikis or shape DMT, wear like a man and stuff. And Hobakatu are not shoza enough if you are wearing a skirt. Or shape maybe skirts are scotch wrap around or in wabon. And who is going to share maybe that knowledge? To understand, no, it's not about it's a must to wear a trouser. Yes, there were places or times whereby a female or a woman wear a trouser because of whatever choices of clothing. And then there's a time whereby how about okay, that woman would or that woman dignity or reflection or representation. If this is a lady, this is a gentleman. Without having a foster, as you said, or foster la or no, Pantsula, a female. It will be a different thing, yeah, or a surprise maybe to some. But no, okay, shows maybe no, nakabato java kia peresket. And if you remember, there was a time whereby bomb shows there was a way how bomb shows about driver saw because of their stature as women, and then my outie a driver saw. As my out. Not horror is the same thing, the same way. Yes, they can able to maneuver in between horror. No, out. But renale way are honor. Hagechaiva, let's say, stock fellow, Okaro Misalent, Okarbato, Comela, Barcaskete, and it was something cellulary. See, I don't know, can I say sexually or otherwise, but it was a woman way of dancing Pantsula, differently from a man way. As much as our parents, they were having how they dance to our mothers and our mothers how they dance to our fathers. So it it grew from what it was before, and then hence it kopoka itlayana, and then the next generation I modify up until maybe to the current generation. And now it goes back, Basadi, how do you explain your position currently? And then Arisa go Pantsula, Bomshoza, how do you explain your position currently? Who are you? What are you doing? And what is this? And moving forward, how do you see yourself less sustainer in this thing? And then like Vandag, ke gelezitse gore omponse gore no man re ntse re expecta Bomshoza ba jive. And then you just taught me gore no, Bomshoza is not about gore tshwantse ba jive. Bomshoza mi babang ba batla etsa so, Bomshoza babang ba batla go administrate, Bomshoza babang ba and ibusetsa back to gore kokasi you find out gore dintlu tse baya they are female headed. A gona bontate ba baya bomagreza ke bone ba setting. I don't know gore life and creative yalo gore bontate ba va first half go sale bomme or maybe bomme because maybe emotional they are stronger than the men were physically stronger than the women. I don't know, but if you check in general, I mean most houses go setse bomme.
You know, passing of information, or the baton, as you would refer to it, when you're consciously doing it, it has always been held by, that responsibility held by women in many ways. And sometimes it can be a burden, actually. Now that I'm a mother, I realize, there's so much expected from women. And sometimes it comes just natural. And we're thinking, wow, she's got superpowers, but it's not like that. The system has created a lot of backlog in terms of family structure.
True.
One, we're not where we want to be or where we were meant to be. Tribally, maybe, or as Africans. Or even the landscape itself. I've heard that the world was one, and then evolution of just mule and all that, separate and all that. It's that kind of thing. And it can be beyond us, but the issue is, what do we do about it as we are holding the capacity to make that certain change. So I was saying the other day, with Boramasana, it was a bit easy for them. They had an agenda. They knew that there's a white system we are fighting. And Rona is very complex for us. And I think I've always struggled with that, to say, when I get into a situation, I'm like, what's the agenda? So at some point I was exposed to Borasta. And for me, I found that my main interest was the concept of Gobeabo Africa, Budumedi, le politiki into one basket, because they've always been dealt with separately. So how le mo Africa go tlatile apara le beshu, for example. And then go te bo Kreste bore, and it separates the two. But also as an African, issue ya politics. So there's like very strong content of consciousness and black consciousness and African, and sometimes it's separated. Black consciousness, African consciousness. Sometimes there are people who separate it because they don't dig in Africa in it, which combines the two kind of.
And some they don't even want maybe Christianity to be mixed with the African things.
So for me, Borasta, when I first heard about it, that's what fascinated me, because environment, as a black person, I can't separate my Africanism and my blackness, first of all. And then family, and our church was called African Orthodox Church. It's still called that, actually. So then issue it's a church, but it's called African like, we are not Asian church. We are African.
Must always remember, as Africans, even if we have this Christian belief and stuff more, but still we must remember we are African. So there must be that thing.
So for me, it was a motivation to say, now Africa bakalebu wawa. And then also it was a black church. So uniform so I understood it from that level. Okay, I can't run away from this thing. And then the issue about politics. So I grew up in a family we draw the line between black and white.
Nje.
So for me, in any issue, as is in one basket. I'm not gonna divide myself today.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. My library, it's that complex.
Sharp.
So, but also what compromised me in that was when I was a female, and there was I think it's how we are groomed as well from different families. But the group that I was with, they believed in kgatello. So kgatello nesia bana, like even young black boys ba marasta, basadi tata because they were seen differently. And hard labor in a loan shapanyana bikinyana. So kwa go bilwa mo hard living e serase bo makhuba mo fa batho dijo and all, and I'm not going that way. Na go my brother taught me dilo tse dintsi bo di fork and knife bo di seafood. So how regular apeya ko ntle and na babaga I mean batho ba mtlakeng khale bana le mtlakase le skontiri. Ebe sanso o batla gore ko simolla mollo ko tlase, and it's a test. It became challenging for me. I appreciate that time so much. It was an eye-opening phase for me. And I was also saved from a lot of stuff. I would like to think that it was a safe haven that God created for me for temporarily. And it was another well of wisdom. But that's what kills movements. Because what I'm saying to you right now, I differ from what you just explained about Bomshoza to say they are expected to do this, this, and that. And it's a patriarchal system. And we can't do anything about it because it's not a race thing. It's not a race thing. So it's how you interpret it. Nagohai, there was equal balance of leadership. I always say, and it used to frustrate me because when you are black and conscious and having energy of advocacy for women, it frustrates you when you look at some of these things. So, because I understand that, and where you work and you get money. I grew up from a family where my parents were working. So, issue so what I really appreciated about how they managed to work together, but mainly appreciate my mother's involvement in that. I saw that if she was not there, probably even today when we say almost the whole of my family is gone, it would have been gone and forgotten. But she was a person who creates legacies, who invests, who makes sure that she puts her all in it. So she modeled a very beautiful investor who puts in everything on the table, who even when there's things that can cause deviation, if the goal is to reach that point, so for me, I think she and also she was a great storyteller. So the storytelling part of women in the community, it's quite great. I've met so many elderly women who are always telling stories, not for storytelling of entertainment, but just to hold the space and tell their way of understanding things. Sometimes they don't even tell it; they live it. I've observed life of Winnie Mandela, for example, that I had at least one privilege just before she died of meeting her, not even in person, just being in the same environment with her. You look at that story of her life and you realize that there's a lot with the good, the bad, and the ugly that is in it.
Can you say Winnie Mandela was a Mshoza?
She is. Not only her, there's a lot.
A lot of them.
Letambuli is for me because of the way she thinks. So it goes back to what you started with to say it's in the mind. It's embedded somewhere. And nagong re batla go over explain. And for me, when I go on shows, somebody else can see as a prophetess, somebody can see as a healer, somebody can see it however way they see it, but maybe it's a language thing because you want to see it the way you see it
from the environment that I'm
you
in
come
and
from.
then how the perspective I use on.
Exactly. So there's a built-in of that woman warrior.
Sharp.
And maybe that's what Mshoza is to me. That's how I see Mshoza go next door.
Sharp.
For me, Mshoza, I don't know if I've been called Mshoza by many, but I know that thing is in. That's why I see it as a she warrior in us. Because if you can think about it, you'd find that woman in there, however she presents herself. And also, it goes with time and changes of time and traditions and cultures that influences everything. We relate better to what we understand. Even in Goborasteng, it was the same thing. There's a lady called Mama B.
Okay.
Mama B, she thinks that she has met God in a female or human form. But it's because how she conducts herself, how she is consistent with the lifestyle.
Which is true. It's like there are people who admire you for who you are and what you represent. And how consistent are you, as you say, with the very same thing, whether Pantsula, whether it's soccer or anything that made you people to maybe respect you or honor you based on what you do in daily life. And that thing of being aware, Jakale Pantsula, there are so many things that it process because of people. They will always expect certain things from you, and then if you're a public figure and people know you and people don't expect you to make a mistake or to swear sometimes or other things, but because maybe you're a disciplined person, you know how to carry yourself and people admire you and people have that thing. If I can say, see us Phodiso for the day, get sharp.
Yeah,
and if you fit a fellow without even maybe I could do this or
exactly,
but just by passing.
And it goes with everybody actually. I think the hero or the warrior that is in us, it depends on how you realize your purpose in life and how you pursue that through your talents. I remember some other time there was a lady who inboxed me that I grew up with while we were still in Cape Town to say, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, where I'm at, I'm actually healing people. And I don't need to prove it in any form. And also because of my Rasta experience, I always feel that I don't need to overemphasize what I understand in dress code or in lifestyle. If something is good, and it's the issue of the fight between the good and the evil. Na purpose. So life. So a very good example, I think, ha o ka kopana le motho a re ke tshwere ke tla lane or a kena mo ntlong a re ha dumelang le kae o bo mirela dijo a ja o mo savile for that moment. And I learned through living with my husband who's diabetic that it's small things that you do that can save life, especially with food. So I want to go back to that. Nna ke go letse go golong gore banane ba kokota ngwana wa next door na ga totla ka ko Mickey AMT every morning a kokote ka yona koko a le monyane mpuleleng ha o bula re ke kopati santse go betse go no tla mirela teye o modulisa mo pela hao re shebe TV na be go robala bikinyana. But you know how that saved that child that is today abudomotona. You know what I mean? So sometimes you don't realize that you are saving life, and it doesn't have to be a politically motivated.
It's a normal life that you live every day.
You just ate. So for me, it's that kind of a thing. It's a matter of just how your strength is like. Your strength can be in politics, that somebody else's strength can be in something else, in art.
Sharp.
Ever nafona art, talent, healing, wisdom, they come as one package.
Sharp.
I'm saying is what you are given when you are born to say, go to the world, do this,
true.
Whether you believe it or not. That's why when you are rude to somebody, you'll know that it's an evil thing that you are doing at that moment. Even if Okalwana we get us of a moment, you know that it's a bad thing.
True.
And it double. Because we
Sure.
Marmona itla double because I also know that I'm intentionally instilling this pain or this feeling to this person.
True.
So, and that's my base information and mentality that I'm at the moment.
Sure.
Maybe it changes with time.
True.
And also it changes with the responsibility because there's a song Miriam Makeba where she go Sarafina. There's a song mo aopelang ana lengwana in the house ya makgoa are leading the struggle with nothing in your hand can lead confusion to your family. And that's what used to or what it's the thing that when I look at it I understand it. Sure. Why would somebody politicking and say it's a do to do aba frustrated? Go habo banna where you go Pantsula every day there's a guy who actually directed me go Bloemfontein Bariki Moses Lichuti.
Sure.
Malichuti mama hai. You should say Moses, go uya kumari but I was in a single engine, mobuya ulambile. And Moses was like Ramathana. He had a political and a creative brain.
Sure.
We used to laugh about it and I understand it because and it pains me because Moses is one of the brilliant creatives. His writing is amazing, his directing. People take advantage of him. People make money of him. They would pitch a big project and say Moses don't choose. Moses' name is not mentioned. Moses' pocket is not paid as sometimes envelope, brown envelope. So for me, it's one of those things that when you do something and you do that to Moses, you know what you're doing.
True.
And I don't know, I really want right now. I'm not at the point where I want to say, how we saw judgment day will, and then judge that person in. Will you judge yourself?
True.
You judge yourself. True. Once it's not even about blood at times. And it's very difficult to explain what I'm saying because there are so many examples. And as a human, you also come with that two good and evil internal setup where
and the one that you feed, it manifests.
Exactly. It's that monster.
Sharp.
So the more you feed it, the more it grows. I don't know if you can handle it. And it goes back to Pantsula abashimane to say they are going as Pantsulas in the name of Pantsula. House breaking. Understand? So for me, it's that thing. You know, when you know, and it's like you wanted that thing.
True.
Where you get the dose, and it's wisdom actually to know between the good and evil.
True.
It's a higher level wisdom for me. Mara on what basis?
Sharp.
Because I'm learning as I'm growing up to be, and I'm hoping to be that grandmother who also
Sharp.
I grew up but as you grow up and it depends on where you are and what is happening, what irritates you at that time. But I'm hoping to learn the new wisdom or for moya all our wisdom ela itla. Wa gore ke nne that green olong instead of I call it by its name, whether it's in a prayer form or however that I'll be able to address it.
Sure.
And I put it into perspective and I pray that it would be with the spirit of bringing change in the process. Because also it's not a good thing ya gore batho ba khona go rapela for people's downfalls, and I don't want to be that person.
True.
Because also it's still the good and evil. So if o kopana le motho, I remember there was a point when I was with the municipality, there was a Western District Youth Office that started facilitating issue ya correctional services.
Okay.
So instead of go bona tronko, o bona a correctional service. If you are motho. But also they were saying people go there and they are corrected and given resources and skills and what. When they come back, it's us who still see them as the monsters. And now the monsters don't know what to do with themselves. And they decide, oh, but that's all I know. It's like with me, art is all I know. So even if nkanna mistress or nkanna, when I worked at the municipality, I had to force myself to be engaged in the sector because I felt if I can bring it in my project, this art, then I must do something external. So I get to leave, I would go and volunteer somewhere. Where I'm giving my services as, in the art sector. So it's that kind of thing. What you are saying, the monster that you feed is the one that will manifest. True. So we need to find that grounding as people, and it's an individual task. We tapele mo pelong, we khogela ko morago. There's temptations, there's irritations, there's intimidations, there's just so many arrogant ways that can push you to these things. But it's up to you what you do with that. You can decide. I mean, even my mom used to do it. It's one of the things that I cherish with how she conducted herself around my kids. Go na le go apa stampa o se rekile o sena le some dirty stuff, then o tshwantse se select. It still doesn't make that pack dirty. Somebody else can do that and decide that it's their discretion. But go na le mo leng gore wa tlhopa si inelo mo metsing se go nne le process eo until the end. Even leading our thing is still the same system. So in life we are those people.
Yo, was Phodiso I got like a geleza vandag. And I know it's the ring say I feel like it. But now we have come to the end of our talk vandag. Hoping maybe in future we'll invite to Hape, maybe having another topic of something. For vandag our geleza it's gore bo Pantsula in a family. What is it? So I invited you knowing gore we've got a vast knowledge about family, Pantsula, and so forth. As a woman who've been in the arts, who it's not like we are America the arts, but you are not an artist. You are an artist. We are Mshoza, and we are very grateful that even if Osatlawa Peredikisi, but you keep Isi Pantsula alive by being you and helping other Pantsulas and other creatives. And now we are sharing information whereby each one teach one, we're learning from each other and sharing information with whoever will be listening to what you're talking about, and hoping this information will help people to become better people by so doing, building a better and a healthy thinking society. So Oswaka, we thank you for coming into Geleza Monday, a podcast, Elore. It shares information about Pantsula and whatever relates to Pantsula. Thank you, Phodiso, for coming to us and sharing. Wolilo, danko. Now you're lento. Geleza Monday, your host, Umalume Stelo, with us, Phodiso Motsumi Matloga, who was with us. Sisonke.
I can vividly see the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck in 1652, like 8 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Baba Vusa Mazulu Credo Mutwa.